Hello and welcome into season 2, episode 2 of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Ryan Scaggs. Where's the intro, you're asking? We're still working on it. By this time next week, though, we will have a nice new intro for you. So stay tuned for that and more exciting stuff.
No, you got me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's not going to blow you away or anything, but it's going to be a little updated, a little more fresh. So, hey, welcome back. This is your weekly breakdown of all things North Idaho in the state of Idaho, District 1 and District 2, 5A all the way down to 1A, D2. You can get the audio version of this Prepcast at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, video version as well on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. All right, Ryan, here we are, week 0. The opening week of high school athletic competition. It actually started on Monday. Fall golf has started Monday. The Moscow Invite was held up at the University of Idaho. The Coeur d'Alene boys and girls won the team titles. I know, right? The individual medalists came from Coeur d'Alene on the boys' side and Lewiston on the girls' side. This golf schedule is going to be pretty back heavy. I read in the Coeur d'Alene press this week, they were talking to the Coeur d'Alene golf coach. He said that 6 of their 10 regular season competitions are before school starts.
Yeah, no, that's just, I think, you're looking into as you get probably later in the season. Obviously, there's some course degradation with fall coming and everything, and you don't know what you're going to get necessarily for weather in North Idaho. So, we've seen it snow in mid-September before. So, and this is in the last 5 years. So, it's going to be interesting. I think, I understand why they do it that way. The courses up here are in great condition right now. It's been hot the last month, but we had a really mild spring and wet spring. So the courses they're awesome. I've played a couple times this summer, and some of the courses up here in just a fantastic shape. So, it's a chance for the kids, I think, to kind of break the summer doldrums a little bit. And, I'm slightly jealous that they get to play golf in late summer, and it's like the best time of year in the state. It's up here in late summer. So, and no surprise that Coeur d'Alene wins the title. They've got a fantastic golf program brewing there with the Vikings and Moscow and Lewiston. Obviously, no slouches either. But just great golf here and great golf environment in North Idaho too.
Definitely. So golf has hit the ground running, and so is soccer. We got a lot of conference matchups here right out of the gate in the opening.
Post Falls was at Lake City, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday. So if I'm not mistaken, so
it's this is the weekend schedule. Boys soccer, you've got Coeur d'Alene at Post Falls. That's a 5A IEL matchup. You've got Sandpoint at Lake City. Moscow is at Lakeland. That is a league match. And then at the 3A level, it's all league. Priest River at Timberlake, St. Mary's at Bonners Ferry, Coeur d'Alene Charter at Grangeville. Those are all conference games. So we are like right out of the gate. No time to mess around. Here's the schedule. Here you go. And it's all of the same matchups on the girls' side as well. So we're hitting the ground running in soccer also.
Yeah, but you also got to look at it too, is that if you look at other competition, there's not, as far as depth pool of people to play, there's not a ton out there necessarily, unless you're going to travel down to southern Idaho. And I think they're still waiting a few weeks for that trip where the Boise schools and the North Idaho schools usually do a trade off. They'll trade weekends going up and down. But, you don't have the Washington schools. I think they just started sports this week. So, Washington's still at least 12 days out from participating. So, there's the schedule, kind of the hole there in North Idaho. Obviously, I understand starting early, but I saw people posting back to school pictures today down in southern Idaho, which makes no sense to me. I'm like, we don't start up here until after Labor Day. So, we still got over 2 weeks left of summer vacation before school starts. So it's kind of an interesting gap up here, but I get it, getting things in early, but yeah.
Definitely. And so there's no volleyball yet, no cross country. That'll start next week. So we'll have a longer, more robust show to talk about those things. And then for football, pretty light schedule this week. There's only 2 games involving teams from up north, but man, what a couple of ball games. They are 2 neutral site games, 2 games that are taking place in the great state of Montana. I may be biased. That's my home state. And I am Dude, I am so excited for this 5A neutral site contest. Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff at Washington Grizzly Stadium in Missoula, home of the Montana Grizzlies. Coeur d'Alene, Rigby, two titans of the
Titans, yeah.
I mean, they are two
Yeah.
titans of the 5A classification. We will have that game for you live on IdahoSports.com. I'm going to be there. I've got my dad running the camera for me because that's where I live and I grew up. And
That's awesome.
I also I've been talking to former Coeur d'Alene quarterback and current Montana Grizzly linebacker Cale Edwards, and he's gonna pop by the broadcast and talk for a little
sweet.
bit as
That's
well.
awesome.
That's
some Viking royalty coming in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, he quarterbacked Coeur d'Alene against Rigby his senior year and threw the game-winning touchdown pass to Colby Nosworthy with less than a minute to play. And that was in the regular season. And then the next year was when Rigby and Coeur d'Alene met in the state championship game, the Miracle in Moscow, that triple overtime affair where Rigby went for 2 in triple overtime and got it and defeated the Vikings by 1 in a high-flying shootout. So 1-1. This is game 3 of the series. Who's going to come out on top, Ryan?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're already breaking down X's and O's, which is awesome. But it's going to be interesting to see what Coeur d'Alene comes back. I think on defense, they're going to be pretty solid on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, replacing some of the guys that they had up front, like Jackson Washington and also Gunnar Julio. You look at a lot of the position players, but they had some depth there last year too. So they've got some guys coming back, especially in the linebacking core. I think their linebacking core is probably one of the stronger units in North Idaho as far as on that defensive side of the ball. But it's going to be the question of if the quarterback play. I mean, we saw last year that it started a little slow. It caught fire later on down the stretch, but there was still a few hiccups like that Post Falls game. Post Falls came in and won a shootout, which was an awesome game. But it's like, are they going to have that hiccup like they did at the beginning of the last year? And coming into a 0-week game, especially with a new quarterback and a new running back core. It'll be interesting to see what the Vikings can do offensively. I think that's where the question marks kind of lie within the program. Are they going to be able to score enough points to keep up with some of these other teams?
Yeah, so Coeur d'Alene comes in kind of relatively unknown. They had to replace a lot of players, but you know what? So did Rigby. Rigby lost a load.
Rigby lost some dudes too. Yeah.
So this really is kind of two teams that are kind of figuring out what kind of squad they're going to be. I think they both think that they're going to be in the mix in the 5A ranks, but we don't really know because there's so many new players involved. So this to me makes the matchup that much more exciting. I think it's actually pretty even because both teams have to replace so much.
Well, Coeur d'Alene's pretty good on the back end of that defense too. Their secondary, I mean, they're only replacing, I believe, 2 guys in the secondary, so they've got some experience back there. But you look at DBs and linebackers, and it's is Rigby going to show up and try to chuck the ball around, or are they going to try to ground and pound it and run the ball? I mean, that's kind of the question mark of who they're replacing to and what they're going to do offensively in the game and the game plan that they put together. So it'll be really interesting to see. I think the Vikings. They do have some senior experience coming back. I mean, there's some guys that played quite a bit of minutes last year. But it'll be interesting to see what Coeur d'Alene comes up with game plan wise. Coach Amos and his crew. He's a great coach, so I mean, I don't have any doubts that he's going to have his crew ready to go. But playing a team like Rigby, who yes, they are replacing a bunch of guys, but they're still Rigby. That's going to be a big test for the Vikings.
Definitely. Rigby has kind of like Coeur d'Alene. They've got some guys returning in the secondary that got some experience last year, and they do have a couple of offensive linemen that will be back as well. So we'll see. We do these statewide previews for every football team in the state, and we send out a little preseason questionnaire to each coach, and we ask that they fill it out because it helps us kind of figure out what to write about. And we always ask them, who are some key players you have coming back and who are new players. So Coeur d'Alene coach Sean Amos sent his back into us, and under where it says, who are some key players you have coming back this year? He responded, none. Now I'm sure that's a little tongue in cheek, but it does kind of magnify,
they had a decent JV team last year too. So I mean, a school with that size enrollment and just the depth of like the youth football program here in Coeur d'Alene too, it feeds the program. But I look at the IEL, and I don't want to like start breaking down opponents and everything, but I really do put Lewiston as the heavy favorite in the IEL this year. I think there's a ton of depth and a ton of talent for the Bengals, and we'll talk about more about them next week when they take on, I believe, Layton in their game in the Rocky Mountain Shootout. But um, that's a conference that I think it could be a changing of the guard a little bit. I look at Post Falls too as a sneaky good team too. Lake City could surprise some teams. It could be a dogfight. We could see honestly, we could literally see a 4-team Kansas City tiebreaker this year to settle the first and second spots coming out of the league for state playoff.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not quite ready to step out on that ledge yet, but I mean, we had a three-way tie last year, so
yeah,
who
we've
knows?
got some dudes. I could honestly see every team getting 2 wins. But I really look at Lewiston, though. I think Lewiston's the team to beat. And the Vikings, I think, have a good prove-it game in week 0. And it's not really going to mean much. I mean, yeah, it's a 5A opponent, so it'll mean something in the Max Preps rankings. But they've scheduled so well. A loss here I don't think is going to be a death sentence for them coming into the playoff run later in the year, kind of like what we saw last year. It helps that they're playing another Idaho 5A school and a team like of Rigby's caliber. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think that they've got the other team that's going to be playing this weekend. They got them coming up in a week or two too, which is Lakeland. So it'll be interesting to see what the Vikings can do, and what the Hawks show up with too. That's going to be a great game also.
Definitely. We'll talk about that in just a second. One last note on Coeur d'Alene. Coach Amos did say they've got a lot of good depth at offensive line and tight end, which tells me
they got big dudes. I drove by they've got size. Like they're a good school bus team. When you see them roll up to a stadium and they get off the bus, they make an impression quickly.
yeah. So I mean, that tells me that ground and pound, baby, that power rush game could be the key for Coeur d'Alene this year. It sounds like Jamison Kiziar Jr. will be the new quarterback for Coeur d'Alene this year, and
he's got a decent arm. I mean, he really does have some arm strength, and he's more than capable, I believe, to run this offense. And even if they go multiple offense like they've done in years past, if you want to put him under center, if they want to run him out of the pistol or the shotgun, I think he's more than capable to take the reins and run this offense.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about the other game that will be happening this week, Friday night. This is also a neutral site game at Montana Tech University over in Butte, which is one of the great cities of America. If you've never been to
Butte, America, right?
It is. It's a good time, man, for sure.
St. Patty's Day in Butte is always that's an interesting time.
for sure. So for the second year in a row, Lakeland and Preston will kind of meet up in the middle for a battle of both these teams made the 4A playoffs a year ago. And last year, Lakeland was quote unquote the host school. This year, Preston is the quote unquote host school. What does that mean? I talked to Lakeland athletic director Matt Neff last week. He said, basically, I get to show up and just enjoy the game. I don't have to do anything else, which is nice. But this is, these are two teams that both lost in the opening round of the playoffs last year. Preston got the 9 seed. They lost to Shelley. Lakeland, of course, had the 11 seed, and they had to come all the way to play Skyline, the number 6 seed.
Skyline 3.5 quarters led the state champion team for 3.5 quarters.
Yes, they did. Skyline was on the ropes there, and a couple of turnovers late doomed Lakeland. But now both of those teams are really hitting the reset button, each one breaking in new head coaches this year as well. Lakeland tabbed Mike Schroeder to lead the team. This is the first time since the Jimmy Carter administration that we are in this bad of a recession. I mean, this is the first time since the Jimmy Carter administration that a Kiefer is not coaching the Lakeland football team.
Yeah, TK, who's Terry, Tim's dad. Terry's a great guy and great coach, and he was around the program too when I was there, and Tim has obviously hired me to be on his staff. So the changing of the guard there as far as leadership goes, they're going to be, a little more West Coast offense, a little bit more I formation, some pistol type stuff, running the ball, play action pass, which I think it's going to play really well into the hands of the talent they've got coming back. They've got some good receivers. They've got an excellent running back in Cornish. John Cornish is one of the better athletes in the state of Idaho. He's blazing fast. He's a smaller guy. He's only like, I believe, 5'6", 5'7", but he bench presses like insane amounts. He's super strong. He's a little pocket dynamite. And then they've got a decent offensive line coming back. So I think offensively, they're going to be able to score points and move the ball. I really do look at this team, with Lautzenheiser at quarterback. I think he's more than capable too. He's a really solid quarterback. He's probably one of the better backups that was in North Idaho last year, because he was playing behind Devin Suko, who, Devin was a great athlete in his own right. But I think Lautzenheiser is more of the traditional quarterback, and so than Devin Suko was. So, I look at what they're going to be able to do. I think Lakeland's going to find some success this year. I really do look at them as being a team that they're going to test Sandpoint, I think, late. They've got talent, they've got speed all over the place. They've got a bunch of guys coming back that are super blazing fast. So, defensively, I think is going to be the question mark. I know that they can play pretty well up front, especially with the size that they've got in the offensive line. I mean, shoot, they've got an offensive lineman that's 6'5", like 310 pounds, that can move. I mean, he's not a slug by any means. So they've got talent, they've got size. It'll be kind of seeing what they can pull together with a new coach. I think that's going to be the kind of point, is if he can get them motivated, they're going to be a solid program again.
Definitely. Lakeland's got speed to burn with Cornish, and also Thomas Calder coming back as the slot back. I like Lakeland by quite a bit in this contest.
Yeah, I think it turns into a track meet. You'll see Cornish probably pop a couple 60, 70 yarders. He gets one a game. Pretty much you can guarantee he'll get 150 plus yard rush. He may return a kickoff too. So don't be surprised there.
We'll see. And Mike Schroeder, the new coach, all he does is win. He won a state championship at Emmett in 2015. He won a state championship in California all the way back in 2004, which is, if you win a title in California,
you're doing something.
You've earned it. His career record, he sent this into us. His career record is it's really outstanding. His career record is 138 wins, 68 losses, 1 tie.
You're getting winning seasons every year. That's impressive.
Yeah. So I think Lakeland's got a great coach here. Preston had to replace their coach as well. Eric Thorson had coached them for 4 years and had kind of turned around the program. Preston used to be everybody's punching bag, and now they're a pretty solid team. But Eric,
the Fighting Napoleon Dynamites.
That's right. Craig Cunningham is the new coach there. Eric Thorson leaves to go back to Utah, where he was from originally. And this was kind of a 2-for-1 deal, because his son, Emery Thorson, was heading into his senior year, and he kind of did it all. He played quarterback, running back, kickoff and punt returners. He played defensive back. He was kind of like the Swiss Army knife for this Preston team. And now, so he's gone as well. Preston's got some really big questions. And so I really like Lakeland.
I like Lakeland, and I like Lakeland big. That's I'm gonna say it early. I think that they're gonna be motivated with the new stat. There's the shot in the arm of energy in that program. It's kind of like what we saw with Coach Knowles at Sandpoint a few years ago. And it may take, you'll see it initially, I think, but you'll see the big changes come in some of those bigger games down the stretch, and I think you really see things turn around for the better for the Hawks.
Now, I will say the caveat is we both said the same thing last year when Lakeland played Preston. We both thought, well, they've got all this speed. They've got Alden Waddington. They're going to roll. And they lost 7-6. So first game of the year, teams are a little slow to start sometimes.
Well, we'll see. I think they get something rolling. I think they find a rhythm, and I like the coaching staff and everything there too. I think that he's gonna do a great job. Schroeder will do a great job, I think, with Lakeland, and they got a solid hire. And with the kids are bought in. Like, I've talked to a few of them also, and some of the people that are around the program. There's a big buy-in, which is cool to see. So, especially with a new coach.
That game will kick off at Montana Tech University in Butte at 5:00 on Friday night. So everybody gets back home at a decent hour. So, two football games.
So it's like 4:00 Pacific time.
Yes. Yeah, we should. Yeah. 4:00 Pacific time. So, it could be a true doubleheader situation. We're not going to be able to broadcast that Lakeland Preston game, but you can find it elsewhere. And then tune in for that Coeur d'Alene Rigby game. It'll be a nice little doubleheader, season opening doubleheader for all the football fans up north.
For sure. Nice little appetizer for the main course coming up next week.
Definitely. All right. Well, we'll get out of here and keep it kind of short because I know we're going to go long next week with all the stuff
Yeah.
that's going on. So,
We got a long way to go and a short time to get there for next week. So
yeah, no
I'm
doubt.
excited for
So,
the football season, though.
yeah, we're off and running here on the North Idaho Prepcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Ryan Scaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.